Hey guys, welcome to the X-Ring. On today's episode, I know I've done this before, but I've had a ton of requests about showing this again. And so I'll spend a little more time with it, but this is going to be a segment on how to clean your precision rifle, okay? Now, this is the thing. You don't need to clean it after every outing, okay? If you're concerned about the carbon drawing moisture from the air, then you could just put a wet patch of like Hoppy's number 9 through there and then a dry patch, maybe a little dab of oil or something like that. But typically I only clean my rifles when either A, they've been subjected to really harsh environment, something like a ton of rain or sand or something like that, or B, when I notice the accuracy starts to fall off in the rifle. So on today, this will be the Christensen that you guys are used to seeing. It doesn't really need to be cleaned, but I want to do this for purpose of the video. And let's talk about everything that we're going to need. First thing you're going to want, of course, you've got your rifle. You need to get it cleaned. One of the most important things is going to be some type of bore guide. I believe this is a Tipton model here. Basically, it's for a bolt action rifle, and you can screw that in and lock it in, put it in the action, and then basically this replaces your bolt. It keeps everything straight and in line with the muzzle so that you're not just banging around in that chamber face. The next thing you're going to need is some type of one-piece rod. Okay, I'm going to recommend a coated rod like a J. Dewey, or this one's a Gunslick. Typically they'll have ball bearings on them where they move nice and smoothly. That way, as you're pushing it through there, it can rotate and follow your lands and grooves as you're pushing it through the bore of the rifle itself. You're always going to clean from the action towards the muzzle, and never pull anything back in through the action other than the empty rod itself, okay? The next thing you're going to need are some good quality brushes. Now, I like to use these. These are by Pro Shot, and I believe they call these phosphor bronze bristle brass center. So nothing in here is going to be harder than what's inside of the barrel itself. So basically brass core, phosphor bronze brush, okay? I really don't change on that. Never use stainless steel or anything like that, or like the stainless tornado brushes or anything. That's going to be a bit excessive. As far as what I use for solvents, believe it or not, Hoppy's number 9, the old school, not the synthetic and everything else. I just use Hoppy's number 9. That's going to help break up the carbon fouling. It does have copper stuff in here, but it takes forever, so I have something else for that, and that's what I'll be using in this squirt bottle. These squirt bottles, I've had a ton of people ask me about these. You can get these on Midway and even Brownells. They're not that expensive, but it just makes a nice way to apply that. In regards to the copper remover, this is the Bore Tech. You can see a little bore there, a little animal, Cu+2 copper remover, and I put that in a little squirt bottle like this. That way I'm not just putting it everywhere all over my patches. The other thing that I use is just brake parts cleaner, okay? Now this is for cleaning my bronze brush after I've already pushed it through with some wet patches or with some solvent on it. This way I don't get any false indicators, and I can actually just take the brake parts cleaner, spray the brush off. It gets all that carbon off of there, so I'm not chasing a dirty brush basically. Then what you're going to need are some good quality patches. There's only 2 types of patches I use. One is going to be the J. Dewey. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm trying to get the light not to wash it out. J. Dewey. And then the other one is Pro Shot. They have tons of different sizes. You can order the Pro Shots directly from Midway or any place like that. But you're going to need to know what size works for you, and that's going to be dependent upon what caliber you are actually trying to clean for. You're also going to want a good jag, okay? There's a lot of different types of jags. I like the brass jags by Tipton, but sometimes that brass will react with the copper remover and you'll get some false indicators of blue. So what I'll typically use is something that's coated. I'll show you some jags here in just a minute and show you which ones I use, and we're going to start cleaning this rifle here in just a second. Stay tuned. All right guys, and some of those jags, which you're going to see here, these are the brass jags. And then these are all by Tipton, and these right here are going to be like nickel coated or something like that, but you're not going to get any false indicators. They're kind of silver looking. They're not steel though, so a coated jag like that would probably work pretty well, and they're caliber specific. So let's get to cleaning this thing. All right guys, so one of the first things that you want to do always is make sure that our firearm is unloaded. So what we've done is we've removed the magazine. I've taken the bolt out. And so we know that this is clear. Now what I'm going to do is take my bore guide. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this so it'll slide. And then you actually have a solvent port on the top of most of these. I'm not a big fan of the solvent ports. I don't use them. I'll show you how I do it. But basically you want to insert this into the action. And you want to make sure that it sits flush up against that chamber face. Okay, so we don't want to put this in loose. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to use that brass piece, and I'm just going to rotate it, turn it down, just like it was a bolt. And I'll let you guys see what that looks like here in just a second. All right, guys, so that's that thing that I was telling you about that looks like a bolt. And so basically I've got it locked in and it's tied up against that chamber, so I'm not going to have any solvent dripping in the action. All right, guys, so one of these MTM case guards, I've had this for probably 30 years, 25 years or so. They're really handy. It's not necessary. I mean, you could do it however you like. Some guys clean off the bipod, but I don't like to have my muzzle where it's upwards, okay? I like it downwards. That way any fluid that I'm pushing has a tendency to fall out of the barrel rather than push stuff through, and then now you've got liquid that's trying to come back on you. So I always have a slight downward angle to it. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our cleaning rod, put a jag on it just like this, and then we're going to pop a patch on it. Once we pop that patch on it, we're going to put Hoppy's number 9 on it first. All right, guys, since we're taking the time to do this, I'll show you a couple other things that I use that, because throughout the years have made it a little easier for me. One of the things is I'll take a rag or paper towel or something and put it underneath the bore guide on top of the, basically the rifle. That way, if I've got a wood stock or something like that, I'm not letting that solvent just run all over it or anything else. Because inevitably, as you push the jag through here, sometimes you will get some fluid that will drop off and it just keeps it from getting all over the stock. The other thing, good set of rubber gloves. Look, I used to work on cars. I know all about dirty hands, but it's very, very inconvenient when you've got solvent or you've got copper remover all over your hands. Someone calls, and then now all of a sudden you have this junk all over your screen of your phone. So yeah, use the gloves, and usually when I'm cleaning, I'm going to be cleaning multiple rifles and guns. So I use that. And then also, and these will come in handy later, just some paper towels, and I'll show you what I do with those. So first thing, I've got the 6.5 millimeter jag on here. Because this is a 6.5 Creedmoor, I'm using 1.5 inch round cleaning patches. So what I'll usually do is I'll just put a stack of them on the table. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take this little jag, and you'll see that sharp point, and I'll put it in the dead center, and you just pop a little hole in it like this. I don't know if you guys can focus in on that. Yeah, just like that. So it's a sharp point. It'll hold that in the same place like it needs to. Then what I'll do is I'll take Hops number 9, and I'll just go around in a circle like this. I'm not completely wetting the patch, but basically, you know, about the center of it there. And then this is going to be the first push through it. So what I'm going to do is get everything lined up. I'm just going to push straight through. The squeaky noise means it's good. I've got enough resistance. I've got the right size patch, and I am pushing the carbon fouling through there. Now I'm hoping the light shows that, but you're going to see the carbon fouling. That's no big deal. And what I'm going to do is continue to do that until I don't see any more fouling. I'm only going to use Hoppy's number 9 until I get it completely clean. So once again, hold the action, push forwards. You'll notice it was really quiet that time. Typically you don't get the squeaking. We'll hear that again later. So we're starting to get pretty clean. No, I didn't put the gloves on because I know I'm going to have to be using the camera there here in just a second. And the other thing is when you pull this out, guys, you do have a bore guide, but keep this straight. Don't drag it at an angle because now you're just flexing it into the actual lands and grooves. So I just try to keep everything nice and straight, and I will just continue to do this until everything is clean. So we are on about the 3rd patch, and this rifle had about maybe 40 rounds through it. But like I said, there was no loss in accuracy, and believe it or not, we have a clean patch. So we have nothing on there. If you're seeing anything, it's just the reflection off the light you're seeing from up top. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this clean, brand new 6.5 Creedmoor brush. Now, technically, you would think, hey, you know, because some guys say, well, I'm only going to chemically clean. I'm not going to use anything that is aggressive or anything like that. And guys, we've only pushed 3 patches through there. The reason I use a paper towel is before I do this, I will swipe this. And guys, look at all of the black that I just got off of that. And so I don't want to just keep tracking unnecessary stuff down into this barrel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw the brush on. Remember, the bore is still wet from the hoppies, and I'm just going to push straight through. And I will usually do this about 3 times, okay? For purposes of this cleaning, I'm only going to show it twice. That way this video doesn't become just crazy long. And when you do this, make sure you hold the end of the handle. That way it can rotate. You'll actually see the guide rod rotating, because that's why it's on those swivels. Okay, so we've done that. What we're going to do now is we'll put our jag back on. Once we put the jag back on, like I said, I always just pick up a handful of them, pull one off. And solvent again, just hoppies number 9. That's all we're using, guys. And the crazy thing about this is just by pushing the bronze brush through there, you're going to see that it's dirty again. So it's breaking up that carbon fouling that's in those lands and grooves. And I will continue to do this until I have no more carbon. Now, before I use this brush again, I will take it outside and spray it with the brake parts cleaner. I'll make sure that it's dry. That way I don't get false indicators from a dirty brush, because I just used it to break that stuff up. So once everything is clean, I'll go ahead and wipe this again. Once again, it's black. Once I do that, and I am done with the hoppies, then what I'm going to do is push a dry patch through there. My bad. So dry patch. And that's nice and clean. And then all I'm going to do now is switch to the Bortec. Now my process for the Bortec is to actually wet a patch, not completely, but just pretty good coverage on it. And it's clear, so you're not going to be able to see it on this video here. But I'm going to push it through once and twice. This one I'll be a little more liberal. I don't want my patch to be dripping or anything like that, but that's why I use these precision applicators. And then now when I do this, chances are I'm going to see a little bit of blue. And yep, we can see some blue. So I have some copper fouling in there. And you guys can see that blue color maybe under the LED light, but it's like a Carolina blue. I'm going to let that set. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to clean the bolt, or I'm going to clean the muzzle brake or something like that. I am going to go ahead and pull the rod out. I don't let that soak in there, and then I wipe this down again. I'm not trying to introduce any contaminants into that muzzle or that barrel when I'm cleaning it. This is going to soak, and then on the next patch in 5 or 10 minutes. Now guys, if you're using the Sweet 762, that's ammonia based, don't let it just sit and soak in the barrel. It's not good for it. So this CU +2 copper remover, I let it sit 5-10 minutes or so, and then I'll push another one through and removing all that copper. Now guys, you don't need to remove the copper every single time, because you want to maintain that copper equilibrium. I mean, if I go in and strip all the copper out of this, every single last bit of it, and that's where those little bore snakes help, the endoscopes, because you can see that color of the copper. You can see that gold color in the barrel. If you strip all of that out, you're going to have to build a layer back in there so that you can get a good, nice, basically surface for that bullet to ride on. A cleaned, decoppered barrel is going to take anywhere from, I've seen it as little as 5 to 10 shots, all the way on up to about 30-40 shots before it really starts coming back in again. Typically that's not the case. On average it's going to be 15 or 20 shots or something like that. It really depends on the barrel and how it was machined and the quality in that barrel. If it was lapped or anything like that, it just depends. You know, button pulled, hammer forged, all of it matters. So once I get done with the CU +2, we're going to pretend, I'm trying to do this without cutting a whole lot. I'm just trying to show you the whole process from start to finish. And guys, this will answer a lot of questions. So we've talked for just a couple minutes, and I'm going to put this back through there, this being the copper remover. And guys, we're still a light blue, but it's not enough to concern me. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to push a dry patch through, get that CU +2 out of there. And then I finish this off with hops number 9. And there's no scientific data to this, but typically when you do this, you're going to hear a lot of squeaking. You hear that high-pitched squeaking? That's where that squeaky clean comes from. Now, the very first time you put a patch through there, it's going to squeak anyway because it's got so much carbon from what I've seen. And then I will do a dry patch. If you're going to store it for a while, go ahead and put a light coat of oil on there. It'll keep it from rusting depending on how you store your firearms. I typically shoot them often enough where I'm not really worried about that, and it's climate controlled down here. So, guys, that's it. That's how you're going to clean that precision rifle. One last thing, let's talk about your bolt. If you don't have the tools to disassemble this, they actually make a set of tools to pull this. There's a way to do it with 550 cord and a toothbrush, but you can also hurt yourself doing it that way as well. You can pull this out, clean your firing pin, the spring, and all that. I only use grease on my bolt guns. I don't use oil on my bolt guns. I use like some type of, like a heavier grease. I mean, you could always use automotive grease, but that stuff stinks. Shooter's Choice makes some stuff. There's also some aviation grease that works real well, or even like your Mobile One, you know, in the tube, but you know, that's going to be more than you ever need. Basically, you're making sure you hit the lugs on your bolt where it locks in, and then also right in here, you put a little bit of grease in there so that when it's camming over, it's something that's nice and smooth and it's just not going over top of the same surface that's dry. Other than that, that's how I clean my precision bolt guns. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't a repeat of something that you had already seen or whatever. It's just the way that I do it. And you don't have to do this every single time. It's just when you notice that accuracy starting to go down, or because of maintenance, because of weather or something like that. Guys, I hope you like it. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that like button down there. Tell your friends about it. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.